Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our session. I know the session at 7 o'clock at night. What I can promise you, a very interesting topic, which is the topic of the day, specifically as we are in Brazil, preparing for this COP30, and this is exactly in the line we will go. I want to also take the opportunity to invite everyone at 8:30 in the building of Innova USP. We will have a reception, a dinner reception, and where we will be able to integrate with each other and know and celebrate this successful venue of Horasis. First of all, I'd like to thank Frank for our friendship, for this incredible program you did on your own, and your ability of putting interesting people together, your pragmatism in actually working on a global scale. And today, where we talk about AI, we talk about virtual meetings, it's nothing better than effectively look into a person's eye and see what can we do together. And if worse comes of worse, is we create an incredible friendship and global community. And Horasis has done this in the last 20 years. And Frank, chapeau for everything you have done. And we're glad having worked with you. And this is really, from all the feedback we had in São Paulo, the capital of the economical and cultural capital of Brazil and maybe Latin America. We have distinguished guests here. And I'd like to remind everyone here of our theme of this hour we had, and we will explore today how technology leaders, investors, and policymakers can collaborate to scale green technologies that deliver tangible climate and social benefits while ensuring the green transition fosters inclusive goals. So in a moment, we are effectively preparing for the COP30 in Brazil, and for the first time actually in a place which is the Amazon, so with the main strategic intention of the government and Pedro Correia do Lago and Anatoni, Pedro Correia, the president of COP30, Anatoni, the executive director, making this a venue in a place which has to be effectively taken care, which is the Amazon forest, taking care of the environment, where we talk about climate and decarbonization. For this evening, I have some very interesting colleagues and friends who will discuss a little bit with you, and I want to start with Chrissy Schoenfelder, who has worked in her life not only in Germany but also in Dubai, and is now in Brazil in very interesting themes related to the green economy, circular economy, social impact, the chemical industry. So, Chrissy, if you could introduce yourself a little bit, and then already say, what is the drive? What you know, when you talk about what you do, your eyes shine, and what makes your eyes shine in such a topic, you know, where it's on a geopolitical aspects. Not every country is participating in that, and we see the great necessity that we have to talk about it and do. I'm a Luxembourger, and in Luxembourg we have a lema. I said, let's make it happen. So let's not talk about it, let's make it happen. And by making it happen, say, what do we have to do? How can we reach that? So Chrissy, please.
A big topic, yes. Thank you so much, Jan. And good evening, boa tarde a todos. I must say, to start with, I admire your endurance at this late hour, and after 2 full days to still be here with us. But it's actually a topic, and I would love to see all the eyes shine when we talk about the circular economy. Chrissy Schoenfelder, I'm the founder of Circularity Matters. Circularity Matters is a consultancy that focuses on the circular economy for plastics. And here, within plastics, on food contact plastics, which are the highest regulated and also the ones that have the highest requirements on the safety for us as consumers. Another part that is very close to my heart is actually the topic of collaboration, the key theme of this conference, because in the circular economy it's important to bring all players together. Nobody can do it by themselves, and here we focus on bringing the entire value chain together. Yeah, and maybe to start off, why is that important? Personally, already as a child, I loved to be in nature, and I hated to see cigarette butts, beverage cans, and whatnot in the environment. And I always took a little plastic bag with me and privately collected that, not knowing that one day I would end up in an industry trying to do away not only with waste, but also with landfills and ultimately also incineration. And why is that important? I give you a couple of data points for that. 90% of all materials extracted and used become waste. Now, thinking about green technologies, what Jan mentioned, what does that tell you already for the CO2 emissions in extraction, in production, during use, and specifically waste? That is certainly something that we all want to do away with because it has a direct impact on climate. Looking to the plastic system, 30%, roughly 30% of plastics are globally collected and sorted for recycling. Now, if we look at the fact, where does it end up? Roughly 9% only ends up as a recycled content in new products. Yeah? So 9% of plastics are actually produced with recyclate. And then if we look further on of all the products, so 45% of all the emissions are being stem from the production and the use and the waste of products. So here we do have a big connect of the circular economy and also for the green technologies that would be used for green energy sources, which is the other 50%. And if I may directly lead to go to plastics, can plastics become net zero? Yes, there has been a lot of beating and continues to be a lot of beating on plastics, but the plastic system, and we did a study for the plastic system in Europe, they have actually a good potential to be completely circular and net zero by 2050. However, that requires radical innovation. It requires the scale-up of infrastructure, the financing of that. It requires ambitious targets by policymakers, and it requires very deep collaboration of the value chain.
Thank you, Chrissy, for the first introduction. And what did you actually study, Chrissy, and how?
I studied business administration, but I've worked for 27 years in the chemical industry and plastics industry, so you deal a lot with scientists.
And at the time, when you were, BASF is worldwide known, and do they have already this, I would say, internal drive at the time, to study, actually say that we have to be more sustainable, we have to work, because when in German Leimann, but if you don't, you also say plastic and then you say, chemicals. Is there I think from top to bottom and bottom to top, the idea of do we have to become more environmental? When did this started at BASF at the time?
BASF is a company that is super focused on sustainability itself and also circularity, very much driving that. In 2000, when was that? In 2099, I was actually in investor relations within BASF, and there we were already talking with the Dow Sustainability Index. Yeah, so really already talking about sustainable funds, looking at the sustainability of companies at a time when that part of the financial markets was still slim. And now it has, probably we will hear from you, has grown to a substantial size. And ever since, sustainability has always been a part of it. And BASF has also coined a German word, Verbund, and has brought that into the English language from early on, which means that once you have chemical products that you use for a process, for a chemical production process, there are byproducts. And those byproducts, BASF really optimized that system, that those byproducts never became waste, but were used in other chemical processes. So really sustainability has been ingrained, and BASF is working very hard on making sure that they're establishing the circular economy, making all their products circular.
Eduardo, thank you again here for being here. And I just want to also suggest that we make a little bit, we have like 25 minutes left, but if anyone from the public here who is present here would like to make a question, we make a more interactive. But Eduardo, we know each other, and I have a huge admiration for you for the diversity of your professional experience. You were, I mean, everybody knows who a partner at McKinsey, helping companies worldwide on strategy and so forth. Then you worked for the government. Then you were the CEO of an immense new concept on decarbonization, which is the Aya Hub. So, and now you in a new adventurous and challenging initiative. You visited in the last 6 months. You were in London on the Climate Weeks. You just got back from New York, and also the climate related to climate. Now you're working on project in biofuels in several. So, Eduardo, I think first tell me a little bit about you, and then what is this very complementary experience of yourself? Brought you and said, now I want to actually improve and do things I really want to do from my heart. You are investing a lot in this project. You're helping companies who want to be in the decarbonization, not only from a I would say balance sheet aspect, but also from a social economical aspect. So please, Eduardo, thank you again for participating, and why don't you share a little bit your immense diversity knowledge with us a little bit.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your kindness. It's very good to be here and share a little bit with so many outstanding people I've heard from the event. And answering your question, why I decided to do Compass Earth Capital right now, and Compass Go, for the people who don't know about, it's a boutique firm focused on helping regenerative investments and funds connect with global capital and help international investors who are looking to come to these new markets, these growth markets, to have support to do that and develop the finance ecosystem. The reason I decided to do that is here, I think it's the same of all my career decisions, although they are diverse a little bit. They do have one topic that comes through all of them. That is, I strongly believe this is what's most important to reduce inequality nowadays, and actually one of the strongest drivers for economic development we have. So my time at McKinsey was working with public sector for economic development. I was in the government with economic development, and at Aya, the whole topic of green investment was also as well, because I strongly believe this is what will make the full change. And the numbers tell the same story. For Brazil, the latest studies from the federal government shows we could double our GDP growth if we achieve the maximum potential of the green economy in the country, if we develop industries like you mentioned, the biofuels industry with very innovative technologies as Macaúba, a plant that probably no one hears about, but has 5 times more productivity for e-diesel, sustainable aviation fuel production than anything we currently have. So the definitive reason, it's inequality reduction. The moment it's because we actually need to do that as soon as possible. And finance, I believe, is the most pressing issue we have.
Let me continue with you, Eduardo, and by observing and being indirectly, talking to several, I know you've been in contact with all the organizers of COP30, and the COP30 here, is also how do we use the technology? And I must make a parenthesis, just introduce myself also here. I'm Jan Eichbaum. I represent the European Union for Innovation and Technology in Latin America and the Caribbean. And obviously, we're very involved in technologies and innovation, bringing European technologies and innovation to Latin America and the Caribbean, but also helping and supporting Latin American and Caribbean initiatives to build this bridge to bring them to an example. We have a very good example. Whoever's from Brazil, we had the pleasure and a lot of work, but to bringing this health institute called Fiocruz, which belongs to the health ministry of Brazil. We brought them to Europe to discuss there, and they want to build a factory to talk about tropical diseases there and more. And I sit on the board of this initiative in Portugal, and we see that the health sector is going not only in the technology part, but they're also going very much in the environmental part and the health part together, and by being in Europe, not only are they taking advantages of bringing experience of tropical diseases or something with immigration in Europe, you're starting heavy, but at the other hand, they're bringing startups, health techs in environment to Latin America also. So my question is, Eduardo, to you, in this venues you were in now recently in New York and then previously in London, and you were also in Asia.
Last year I was in Saudi.
Yeah. So what is the perspective actually you see by participating in this pre-COP or companies and executives, NGOs and government? How do what is the action plan effectively in terms of technology, in terms of social commitment, in terms of social economical return, but also at the hand, what has to be done in terms of to change, because the climate is no longer a threat, it's there and here, and everybody's talking about, but it can no longer be a part, of theory, studies, PhD thesis, and what is actually what did you feel from your interactions with on a world stage, and which will happen in November at the same time? What is the trend in technology? What are they doing? So I'd be very interested in, and I think the public is to know what's been discussed and what's going to happen.
Well, that's a very complex question. It would be great to have a whole seminar to debate that. But I will try to keep to the most pressing issues I believe I'm interacting and seeing in my field right now. First, I think you answered some part of that in your question. Action is definitely what is needed right now. And I'm very happy to see that Brazil decided to transform COP in an action agenda. The whole multirão idea, the whole action agendas who've been working more directly with the COP presidency, they are moving on. Dozens of groups working together, meeting each other weekly, bi-weekly, to actually move on concrete plans that we presented at COP with a lot of private sector involved. Myself, I'm participating in the critical minerals discussion, for example, where they want to develop what's going to be the critical minerals KPIs and actions that people will commit to deliver after COP. So action is definitely important. But to give you one thing that I believe could have been a consultant, like an 80-20 impact, like if we could focus on that, we could have a huge transformation. For the topic of our discussion, that is scaling green technologies, is the perception of what are the returns of sustainable investments. If we can change that, yeah, I think that will be transformational for the agenda. And it's a perception issue, it's not a fact issue. And give you some data about that, this one area that I've been most interested about. In the beginning of the year, there's the New Private Markets Institute. They've took out the three biggest asset managers we currently have, and look at their funds, right? So financial funds, they had impact funds, or they had non-impact funds. Now they have historical data because these funds have been around for 5, 8 years. And they wanted to look how the returns of these funds would compare. And the answer was quite clear. They were the same, right? The funds, impact funds and non-impact funds were returning the same in terms of financial returns. Just yesterday, GIM has launched their State of Market study, and for 2025, impact funds are actually performing better than non-impact funds. We are seeing BCG studies showing increase of 4 to 7% in EBITDA of the companies who have impact/SDG in their main strategy. So if we change the idea that make sustainable investments is only for the planet, or should be a charity movement, or does not bring returns, and actually change the paradigm to this is the best business opportunity of the whole century, I think we'll see much more money coming to green technologies and achieving the main goal we want, that is accelerating this whole transformation.
Chrissy, the other day I was with a friend, he's called David Schurman, and David Schurman grew up basically with his parents who decided to go on the boat worldwide. And whoever is from Brazil knows the story. They have a huge, and then they created an NGO about 2 years ago. It's called The Voice of the Ocean. And it's interesting what he told me. And he said, for instance, everybody's talking about the forest. And you know, and when you do a statistic, and he said, how many people have actually been to a forest? And obviously when in Europe, you go more to forest, and they said, we are much closer to the ocean and to the water, because the water is not only ocean, but it's the whole circle. And then he mentioned to me that while they were working around the world, they were thinking somewhere in the Pacific, they went to an island, a huge island, with no inhabitants there, and they found, I don't know, a huge amounts of plastic there, which came from the ocean there. And he said, we got to do something also related to the plastic in the ocean, not only because, and then they said, what is being done actually, not only that for the waste, because the ocean, the water goes to the ocean, goes to the river, goes into the municipalities, or people who throw, you know, pads and plastics within there, and today we're working, for instance, I don't know, in Brazil there's a company called Braskem, who's a no petrochemical company, but they are now developing plastic out of ethanol with the same, I would say, using the same machines from fossil energy to produce plastic and polypropylene and all the things, and now they're doing it out of plastic. So what is I think what has to be done in order to educate that we obviously don't put the plastic there, and what is the economical aspect? What should the companies do in order to do reusable plastic? Because I think it takes, I don't know how many years to effectively get rid of the plastic if you throw them in. So what is your vision in terms of, again, action, that those who manufacture plastic on fossil fuels and what has to be done actually, and this is obviously the circular economy, but the plastic is still there, and the pressure, the economical pressure to do plastic out of petrol is still there.
Very happy to take that question. It's a big question, and it requires a new system thinking from basically all. From the population, from the companies, the entire value chain. Let me try to make it very visible for you. in order to explain how that all works together, and then coming also to Braskem, but also to a lot of other companies who bring together a lot of different solutions. Think of a yogurt cup, the yogurt cup that you have in your fridge. Think of that yogurt cup becoming, you eat it today, you discard the packaging, and in few days of time, it becomes a new yogurt cup in your fridge, safely, food safety. So that is a vision that a value chain for ceramic polymers had in Europe at a time when they were really with their back against the wall. And I can say that because that industry had not acted for a long time and then felt in 2017, 2018, the pressure, now we really need to act. And what did we do? That is the system that you already alluded to. We took companies that had a core interest in making this yogurt cup fully circular on the high level, on the high quality level, that it can become a food contact product again. And those were the converters. The converters, those people that produce the packaging, because for them, that plastic material, polystyrene plastic material, had a lot of sustainable and economical advantages. Faster processing time on the machines, 30% less energy consumption, and because of the type of the material, a higher rigidity, meaning that the yogurt cup is stable in transport, but also on the shelves with less material use. So ideal, sustainable criteria matching the economic criteria. Then there were the raw material producer who saw, if my product is not recyclable and is furthermore not in the future being recycled at scale, so scaled up in high volumes and in practice, then maybe we face the threat that this product will be replaced. So those people got together and then engaging more and more people, more companies along the value chain, academia, brand owners, the producers of the yogurt cups, just as an example, the retailers, the supermarkets, because they felt that there's a huge circularity potential. And what we did is we created a plan, we mapped up a plan and checked off all the criteria needed. And what is that? The first thing is really, is the material, is that separable? Yeah? Can it be sorted? Yes, the machine producer said this material can be sorted from mixed plastics into that particular plastic. And furthermore, because the yogurt cup wanted to get a second life as a yogurt cup, there's legislation in place in Europe that you can only introduce recycled content into a food contact packaging if that recycled content had been food packaging before. So we needed to have the sorters being able to identify out of the whole dirty waste that certain plastics had been yogurt cups in their previous life. And that we saw we could establish with the near-infrared sorting, optical sorting, so that was a checkbox. Then we went to recycling technologies and thought, okay, what can we do? Mechanical recycling. Everybody knows that PET bottles are mechanically recycled. We thought, let's try that with adjusting the processing time and also the temperature. And we realized that we could use mechanical recycling with the same food grade quality. Doing that with several mechanical recycling machine manufacturers. At the same time, we looked at different technologies. Recycling polystyrene with a solvent, that worked to high quality. Then also depolymerization, which means that you take the polymer, the plastic, and you unzip it like in a zipper and bring it back just one step further to the monomer, to the raw material. And by that, you can also use different sorts of waste streams in order to arrive at a quality that is virgin-like. So that is exactly like the product that has been, the plastic that has been produced using crude oil, the fossil fuels that we would like to do away with, would like to replace. So the technologies were there. Fantastic. Then, once we had the recyclate, we needed to check the converters that produce the packaging. Do they need new machinery? Or would they be able to use the recyclate as a drop-in solution in the machinery? And yes, that was a checkbox. We had the same quality of the material, running at the same speed in their machinery, a huge economic advantage for them. Then the brand owners. The brand owners were super interested, however, and there comes the caveat, and there comes also the point where regulators can have a very positive impact. So the regulators in Europe wanted, obviously, the recycling rates to go up and the recycled content to go up. And this was also really important because the brand owners were interested in all the solutions. However, at an early stage, recyclate is more, high quality recyclate that is more expensive than the virgin material because the plastic industry had been so cost efficient with all the economies of scales in the past years. So certainly recyclate at that high level is more expensive. And with that, in order to accelerate, you need the regulators. And in Europe, we have the quota that is in place. Yeah, by 2025, a certain amount of plastics need to be effectively recycled. For PET bottles, 25% recycled content needs to be incorporated by 30%, and so forth. Yeah, and that puts pressure.
Very interesting, Eduardo. It's actually with your government experience, so and also financial experience. For when we talk about changing and decarbonization, and say, obviously, we need the financial market behind it, but also from an aspect from the government of regulations. And what do you? I mean by working and today on the very interesting projects work. I mean we have Chrissy here on circular economy and plastic and degradable plastics, but at the other hand we have now. Talking about, you mentioned Macau, but we're talking about renewable energy. We have Brazil is obviously very known for its ethanol, and now they're working on with ethanol on hydrogen. Also with solar power, we have now an immense demand on the market, for instance, with AI, with data centers, for green data centers. Brazil obviously has the sun and the power and so forth. So we talk about sustainable aviation fuel. We talk about we're talking about the new biofuels, which we're doing. But at the other hand, there's so much money needed for this change of technologies, the change of this demand, but at the other hand, the policies also, the education, the communication in a row to objective. And obviously these are the themes which we will find at COP30, but now in your experience now and going after financial partners who invest in the substance of this project you're working on. So if you could, share a little bit us your vision and then use your expertise as an ex-McKinsey, because they always tell people how to do it, and sometimes, not always, they know how to do it, but they never did it. So I think so, but it's so I think that's a very, yeah. So, so we have 5 minutes, Frank, 1 minute. So 1 minute to 1.5, can we? 1 minute, okay, 1.5. Okay. All right.
So I'll try to be extremely sharp, but innovation is not only on technology. Policy innovation is key. I will just quote a few we have in Brazil, for example, they're being doing globally. Green taxonomies are key for green investments. We've just launched an FX rating mechanism yesterday that will invest $1 billion to attract other $4 billion that has already attracted $8 billion in these two first auctions. What we are doing with TFFF, the Tropical Forever Fund, is completely innovative that will actually bring financial mechanisms to keep the standing forests in a collaboration with more than 10 countries with more than $100 billion. The current regulations on the law of the future of fuels just created incentives for how do you actually increase the biofuels production in Brazil. And we are promoting just at COP, the government will bring a new voluntary carbon market. It will be the first time we will try to exchange regulated carbon credits between countries, and that will create a market with immense value for others. So policy has a huge impact. We could spend another 20 minutes, but I will keep with my 1.5 minutes just saying there's a lot of policies in place that could be changed. CBAM in Europe was extremely important, but also as well has some problems in terms of how we take care of inequality between countries. But without the right policies, we'll never do the green transformation we have. And there are a lot of good examples in place.
Thank you. So I want to thank Eduardo, Chrissy. Thank you very much. Eduardo and Chrissy will be around. So I want to repeat, we have at 8:30, we have a reception dinner, and we will... Two things I'd like to hear officially to thank Marcelo Zufo here, who is the head of USP Innovation. And I want to ask a question. Marcelo has gently offered whoever is interested, maybe tomorrow, to visit Inova USP and see the incredible projects Inova USP is realizing in terms of semiconductors, in terms of Instituto Pasteur is here. Macron visited Inova USP when he was here, and the incredible projects. Whoever is interested in making a visit to Inova USP, I think it's a very, very interesting tour. Marcelo Zufo, professor and responsible in Inova USP, who have all my thanks for, because he was responsible to make this really happen. Marcelo, he's around, and whoever wants to do a tour tomorrow, talk to me during the lunch and the dinner, and we arrange that. Second message here. The state of São Paulo has a wonderful orchestra here, and tomorrow night they will have a dance performance at this beautiful hall called Sala São Paulo, which have a performance. So whoever wants ticket for this performance, also talk to me, and the state of São Paulo is inviting us, whoever wants tomorrow night at 8 o'clock at night to participate. We just had a great session here on social economic growth through art and music. So whoever is interested, I'm finishing, Frank, whoever wants to go to the concert tomorrow night at Sala São Paulo, please do talk to me. I'll be around. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.